Okay, when we started this DVD, we started with the notes on the 6th string, and we're going to come back to that because now we're going to start diving into some of those movable chords that we talked about, that the only way you can play them is by knowing those notes on the bottom strings. If you look in your book, example 9 is the notes on the 6th string, and I think we've already done that, so I'm going to move on to the second half of it, which is the notes on the A string or the 5th string. Bill, let's do that same kind of process. Let's start on open A, and I just want to review. All adjacent natural notes are a whole step apart, except B to C and E to F, which means Bill is going to be moving 2 frets at a time, except when he gets to E and F and B and C. Okay, Bill? So starting with open A, nice, move up to B, now to C. That's the natural half step. Now from C to D, thank you. From D to E, E to F, thank you. That's the other natural half step. If you really memorize this, you can find any note in any position on the guitar easily. From F to G was a whole step or 2 frets, and from G to A. That A puts Bill back at, in a way, his starting point. You started on an A. You started on the open A, now he's an octave higher. Remember the double dots, the 12th fret, all the notes repeat themselves. An octave higher, but they repeat themselves starting at the 12th fret. Work on example 9 and 10, same thing. Play those examples. All they are is quarter notes on the bottom 2 strings. Say the notes out loud.
And then we should look at where they lie with the fret markers too.
Okay.
So our C is on a fret marker.
On a fret.
D is on a fret marker. E is on here. Now the half step is not.
Sits right in the middle.
But there's the one above it.
Yep.
And then when we get G's not, but A, we have the
Right.
double dots.
And so after a while, you just get so used to that. Like you instantly know C is at a fret marker, D is at the next fret marker, the 5th fret, E is at the next fret marker. And I just look at the guitar and I see F sitting in between the 2 fret markers. And then I'm so used to it that I know G is above the next fret marker, and then we get to the double dots where it all starts again with A. Now, here's what we've been leading up to. We're going to start playing some power chords. Power chords, super common in rock. So many rock songs, in my opinion, instead of being based on full chords, you know, of course, plenty of rock songs have plenty of chords, but many of them are based on what I think of as big bass lines. The guitar part, listen to Led Zeppelin, especially listen to Led Zeppelin. Many of those songs were based on a guitar riff, and that guitar riff is almost like a big bass part. When I say big, it's primarily a bass line that's been harmonized with one other note. It's a 2-note chord. That 2-note chord has been nicknamed the power chord. Now let's start with the simplest one, an E power chord. All it is the open E string, and then we have our first finger at the 2nd fret of the 5th string. And it's 2 strings, that's all we're going to play. Don't play any of the other strings. That's an E power chord. It's indicated with a 5. When you look at your music, you see it says E5. That's how we signify the power chord. Let's move up the whole E string, the natural notes, playing the power chords, which, by the way, is example 11 in your book. So, Bill, let's start with E5, or E power chord, F power chord, G, A, B, C, D. Okay, and then if you want, all the way up to E. Work on example 11 in your book. It breaks those into kind of digestible chunks, you know, just like 4 chords at a time, so that you really get them memorized. You want to be able to instantly place your hand in the right place. If I said, Bill, I'll do it. Play a B power chord. Okay, no thought, you just go there. Play a D power chord. Thank you, play a G power chord. That's where you want to be. No thought. It takes a little while to get there. takes practice, right?
Saying the pitches helps out
Saying
too.
pitches helps a
You know,
lot.
so I would C, I could go F, G, A, D, and you know that helps out.
You could even invent random exercises, have a
Yes.
friend call out a note name and instantly go there.
If you want, you can get a pair of dice.
How do you do it?
Well, you roll the dice, you get a number from 1 to 12, and then you
And you play the
figure
chord
what that
there.
note is. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So
or
if
that
it
power
says
chord,
if it says 6, you go to the 6th fret, and what would that be?
B flat.
B flat. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So that's the kind of, and you can get little dice games on your iPhone. And just use that.
Since we just played a B flat, and we did discuss this in level 1, how did we know it was a B flat? Remember we were talking about whole steps and half steps. Well, we have already discussed, for example, that A is at the 5th fret. We discussed that B is at the 7th fret. And we do know, if you remember from level 1, when you flat a note, it goes down 1 fret. So 6th fret is either B flat or A sharp. Two names for the same note. The technical word for that is enharmonic. So if you want to impress your teacher, talk about enharmonics.
That's a very good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Enharmonic, two names for the same note. But either way, if you were on A and went up a half step, you might think of that as A sharp. If you're on B and went down a half step, you would think of that as B flat. Same note. Okay. So definitely work on those examples. Try to get to those chords without thinking. Let's move on to the next page.
Excellent.
So in page 15 of your book, we're going to work on the power chords on the 5th string. So Bill, let's do the same thing. Let's show them the power chords on the 5th string. Let's start with the A5, B5, C, D, E, F, G, and all the way up to A. Now, work on this example in your book. Same thing. You want to get there instantly. Bill, I'll put you on the spot again. Play an F. Thank you. Play a D. We played a D power chord earlier on the other strings. Listen to how similar that sounds. The only difference, because they're the exact same notes, but played in two different places, there is a tonal difference.
The size of the strings makes a difference.
The size of the strings makes the tone difference, but harmonically, note-wise, they are the same thing. You could choose to play those chords in either place. Sometimes it's a fingering decision because you're closer to one than the other. Sometimes it's a tonal decision. You might decide you want a thicker sound, so you might play it on the lower strings. You might decide you want a thinner, brighter sound. You'll play it on upper strings. So work on all those chords. Now, Bill, here's where the fun really is. We're going to jump to example 13, which for the students at home is at the bottom of page 15. This is one of my favorite riffs, and throughout this series we've been saying how certain riffs are so universal that we play them in more than one song. This particular one I first heard in a ZZ Top song called LaGrange, and then I found out they learned it from a Bo Diddley song, and Muddy Waters wrote a song based on it as well. So there's a very cool blues riff that might show up in more than one song. Let's play it together, but slowly at first, and then we'll talk about it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Very cool riff, especially when we speed it up. Now, what are we doing? We're playing A power chord, and then we're going to go to a C power chord, to a D. Hundreds of blues songs are going to be based on that chord sequence. Now, to make it sound the way we did, we were playing what we call a syncopated rhythm, playing a lot on and. It's 1 and 3, 4. 1 and 3, 4. All those ands I was playing with upstrokes. Very important, we were also muting. If you look at your music, you will see there's a very intentional rest in between each of those chords. We want to hear that rest. We want silence. If we don't hear the rest, it'll sound like this. It does not have the same effect. To mute them, do you see my hand? So this hand actually stops the strings from ringing. And at the same time, I'm muting a little bit over here, palm mute at the exact same time. But where I really cut it short is over here. Might take a little bit of practice. Eventually it becomes second nature. On guitar, we're always cutting things short. We have to do it with one hand or the other, depending on what's available. Let's play this through. We'll take the repeat. We'll play it a couple times, a little bit faster. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now let's play along with the track that we have created, and you can hear it a little bit more in context. Okay, now that was still a little slow. Let's take it up to full tempo the way you'd probably hear it on a record.